Let's now get to our top story. To express unity with the oppressed people of Indian-occupied Kashmir, Pakistan and Kashmiris across the world are observing Solidarity Day. This comes amid New Delhi's lockdown of the valley for the past 185 days after its illegal annexation.
In his message on the Solidarity Day, Prime Minister Imran Khan said New Delhi's actions have exposed the fiction of India's democracy. He said Kashmiris, the Muslim Ummah, Pakistan, and the international community have rejected India's travesty of law and justice. Prime Minister Khan will address Azad Kashmir's Legislative Assembly today to reaffirm Pakistan's support for Kashmiris. President Arif Alvi said Kashmir is an integral part of Pakistan and an unfinished agenda of subcontinent's partition. Marking the day, human chains will be formed at Kohala, Mangla, Holar, and Azad Patan points, linking Pakistan and Azad Kashmir. Pro-freedom politicians of Indian-occupied Kashmir have thanked Pakistan for support and highlighting the issue globally. Earlier, Pakistan's National Assembly unanimously adopted a resolution expressing solidarity with the valley.
Let's now go to the Pakistani capital, Islamabad, where we're joined by our correspondent, Isa Naqvi. Isa, thanks for joining us. So what activity, Isa, is planned for Kashmir Solidarity Day there in Islamabad?
The Kashmir Solidarity Day is being observed all across the country, and especially in the federal capital of Pakistan, Islamabad. Several events and activities are taking place right now. I am standing outside the UN Resident Coordinator's office in Islamabad, where parliamentarians, women, children, and people from all walks of life, including the civil society, they have gathered here, and they are going to present a resolution. The UN Resident Coordinator demanding the implementation of the United Nations Security Council resolutions regarding Kashmir. They have condemned the lockdown of Kashmir for over 6 months now, and illegal occupation of the Indian-occupied Kashmir for the past 7 decades. They are chanting slogans in favor of the oppressed people of Kashmir and the atrocities and the grave human rights violations that are being meted out with Kashmiris in the IOK, especially after the 5th of August.
Indeed, tell us about that, because since the 5th of August, this is the first, of course, Kashmir Solidarity since that happened. Do you feel a change in the tone of these protests as well?
Yes, exactly. One thing that the number of people who are participating on the Kashmir, like in the events on the Kashmir Solidarity Day today, is obviously bigger, has swollen from the previous years. And I can clearly see an active participation of women and children, and obviously the people who have their bonds and connections on the other side of the border as well. They are present here. And also, it is not just one event. There are rallies being taken out from Rawalpindi in Islamabad. Human chain is being formed outside the National Press Club. Simultaneously, while I'm standing here outside the UN Resident Coordinator's office, there are several activities that are going on in the federal capital at the same time.
Very well, Isa, with that, but no doubt we'll be getting updates from you throughout the day. That was Isa Naqvi speaking to us from the Pakistani capital. Well, for more on the Kashmir Solidarity Day, we're now joined also by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi on the line. Foreign Minister Qureshi, thank you for your time today. Now, this is the first Kashmir Solidarity Day, Minister, after India's illegal annexation of occupied Kashmir. Considering that, what has Pakistan done differently from the previous years?
Well, Pakistan has raised this issue, which was lying dormant in the Security Council for almost 5 decades. This government has raised this issue effectively at that forum. Prior 5th of August, it has been discussed in the Security Council. This government has raised this issue in Geneva, in the Human Rights Council, and there was 58 countries that endorsed our statement last year. This government has raised this issue internationally on every forum, whether it was the UNGA or different think tanks in our bilateral meetings. And today, the narrative is changing from shining India to intolerant India. Today, the European Union is debating a resolution, and it will be voted perhaps on the 2nd of March. Today, the U.S. Congress, for the first time, has twice debated this issue, and there's a resolution pending there.
Therefore, Mr. Qureshi, how would you categorize the response and actions of the Muslim world to India's actions in the occupied valley?
Which was, well, we expect the OIC to take a more pronounced position. We are grateful to them for having raised the independent Human Rights Commission of the OIC has made a very good statement. The contact group on Kashmir of OIC has issued a very effective ministerial communique, but we are very keen that the OIC, recognizing the importance of this issue, recognizing the right to self-determination, which is also one of the points that is highlighted by the Palestinians that was discussed in the OIC Executive Council just a couple of days ago, to convene a level meeting or a Council of Foreign Ministers so that the Ummah speaks with one voice on this issue. Just reiterate the position they have taken in the past. The OIC has a historic position on this. We are asking for nothing new. What we are saying is they should once again show solidarity with the people who are being abused. Their rights are being abused. Their basic fundamental rights have been usurped by Indian occupation forces.
We'll leave it there at that, Foreign Minister Qureshi, but of course we appreciate your time. That was Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi speaking to us there. Let's move on with the news for now. In Kabul, Pakistan's embassy has reportedly been stopped from holding an event marking Kashmir Solidarity Day. The event was scheduled to be held at a hotel in Kabul on Wednesday. Hotel management have alleged Afghan authorities instructed them to cancel the reservation. Diplomatic sources say the embassy has taken up the issue with Afghan authorities. Pakistan's Foreign Office has summoned a senior official from the Indian High Commission to protest ceasefire violations along the line of control. This comes a day after 4 civilians were wounded in unprovoked firing in the Dana sector. In a statement, the Foreign Office said such incidents are in violation of international norms and are a threat to regional peace. It said India cannot divert attention from the worsening human rights situation in Kashmir through such tactics. Pakistan has time and again asked India to respect the 2003 ceasefire agreement. But ceasefire violations by Indian forces continue unabated. Tensions between India and Pakistan increased after New Delhi stripped occupied Kashmir of its autonomy in August last year. Well, in India itself, artists, including singers and comedians, have joined the ongoing Anti-Citizenship Act protests in the capital, New Delhi. Meanwhile, the all-women sit-in has continued at Delhi's Shaheen Bagh since December 16th, despite armed attacks on the demonstration. The artists started joining the sit-ins after right-wing Hindu parties threatened to attack the protest this week. To counter the fear, rappers, classical and Sufi singers have performed at the sit-in over the last few days. Similar sit-ins continue in Mumbai and Kolkata, where protesters refuse to leave until the law is withdrawn. India has seen countrywide demonstrations against the controversial act, in which 27 people have been killed over the last 2 months. On to some other news now. The Taliban have accused the U.S. of obstructing Afghanistan peace negotiations by making numerous changes in demands. A fresh round of talks between the group and envoy Zalmay Khalilzad-led U.S. delegation is underway in Doha. In a statement, spokesperson Zabihullah said the Taliban have the intention and capacity for a resolution. He said U.S. President Donald Trump's tweets are hindering the progress. The spokesperson said differences between Kabul and Washington are the other major reason for the talks' failure. He said, unlike Washington, the Taliban's position and stance is principled and concerted. U.S. President Donald Trump has pledged to end the war in Afghanistan and bring all American troops back home. Speaking at the State of the Union address, Trump said America's enemies are on the run, fortunes are on the rise, and the future is blazing bright. This report has more.
During his 90-minute-long speech, Trump reunited U.S. Army officer Sergeant Townsend Williams, deployed in Afghanistan, with his family.
It is also not our function to serve other nations as law enforcement agencies. These are warfighters that we have, the best in the world, and they either want to fight to win or not fight at all. We are working to finally end America's longest war and bring our troops back home.
Trump also reiterated his call to Iran to abandon its pursuit of nuclear weapons and accused Tehran of spreading terror. Trump's address became a shocking display of U.S. divisions as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi ripped up her copy of the speech on live television. Meanwhile, reacting to Trump's speech, Democratic Governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, attacked the Republican Party on health care. In her speech, Gretchen said Democrats are trying to make U.S. health care better, while Republicans are trying to take it away from every American.
Elsewhere, after trading barbs over the past couple of days, Russia and Turkey have agreed to take immediate actions to improve coordination in Syria. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin discussed the recent developments over the phone. On Monday, over 50 soldiers were killed in clashes between Turkish forces and the Moscow-backed Syrian army. Erdogan underlined that Turkey would continue to use its right of self-defense against similar attacks in the future. The Kremlin said Putin and Erdogan highlighted the need to follow mutual agreements on Syria's Idlib province. It said both presidents reiterated support for the intra-Syrian dialogue in the framework of the Syrian Constitutional Committee in Geneva. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, meanwhile, has expressed his concern over clashes between Turkish and Syrian forces. Welcome back. 490 people have died from the new coronavirus in China, while more than 24,000 are infected. The number of daily deaths reached another record high in the country, with 65 fatalities in Hubei province. After the lockdown in Hunan and Hubei provinces, officials in Zhejiang province have limited the number of people allowed to leave their homes. The virus continues to spread, with Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand reporting new infections in people that have never been to China. Meanwhile, 10 people on a cruise ship quarantined off the coast of Japan yesterday have tested positive for the disease. But the World Health Organization continues to insist that the outbreak is not a pandemic.
Currently, we are not in a pandemic. We are at the phase where it's an epidemic with multiple foci, and we will try to extinguish the transmission in each of these foci.
Well, China's National Health Commission says almost 900 people earlier diagnosed with the new coronavirus have recovered after treatment. Now, Taiwan, Vietnam and Saudi Arabia have reported a bird flu outbreak. This comes as the world struggles to contain the spread of that deadly China coronavirus. The virus has killed 2,200 birds in Vietnam, while it has killed over 22,000 birds in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Agriculture Ministry said over 385,000 birds were also slaughtered as a precaution. This is the first such outbreak in the kingdom since July 2018. The H5N8 strain of the bird flu detected in Saudi Arabia has been declared increasingly infectious. Earlier, Taiwan reported 56 deaths due to the H1N1 swine flu virus in the past 3 months. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets of Algiers to demand the departure of the ruling Algerian elite. It is the 50th consecutive week of anti-government protests in Africa's largest country. President Abdelmajid Tebboune was elected in December to replace veteran leader Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Protesters, however, believe the elections did not result in real regime change. They are now targeting the political elite, including Tebboune himself. Demonstrators say real regime change would mean the Hirak protest leaders are included in the government. On to Lesotho now, where the country's first lady is about to be charged with the murder of Prime Minister Thomas Tabane's former wife. First Lady Masaya Tabane has fled the country in January to escape arrest, but returned yesterday to turn herself over to authorities. Police say she had been in hiding in neighboring South Africa. They said the First Lady will spend the night in custody before being taken to court, where the Director of Public Prosecutions will prepare the charge sheet. The former First Lady Lipolelo Tabane died in 2017, 2 days before the Prime Minister's inauguration for a second term. Kenya's longest-serving president, Daniel Arap Moi, has died at the age of 95. The former strongman served as president from 1978 to 2002. President Uhuru Kenyatta announced his death, saying the nation had lost a great man. He was in office for 24 years until forced to step down by intense pressure in 2002. There was no immediate explanation for Moi's death, although he has recently been in and out of hospitals with breathing problems. Moi is credited with keeping Kenya relatively stable compared to its troubled neighbors, but he oversaw massive corruption scandals that are still costing Kenyan taxpayers. The country's economy stagnated under Moi, leaving millions stuck in poverty. Britain says it will ban the sale of new petrol, diesel, and hybrid cars from 2035, 5 years earlier than planned. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says it's an attempt to reduce carbon emissions. Johnson made the announcement at an event launching the 2019 UN COP26 Climate Change Conference, which will be held in Glasgow in November. Britain has pledged to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero with a mixture of cuts and offsetting pollution measures.
We have to deal with our CO2 emissions, and that is why the UK is calling for us to get to net zero as soon as possible, to get for every country to announce credible targets to get there. That's what we want from Glasgow.
Now, countries around the world have announced plans to crack down on diesel vehicles following the 2015 Volkswagen emissions scandal. The European Union is also introducing tougher carbon dioxide rules. Well, Mexico City, meanwhile, has banned the use of plastic bags. The decision aims to reduce the daily generation of solid waste. The step has received positive responses from Mexican citizens.
Mexico City is the world's top garbage generating capital, producing 13,000 tons of solid waste daily. 15% of this garbage is comprised of single-use plastic. As a first step, local authorities have banned the use of plastic bags.
I prefer to take my trolley or my bag, another cloth or coarse cloth bag, and I avoid being given any plastic bags as much as I can.
People have accepted the ban, preferring to bring their own reusable bags with them when they shop.
This is the Mexican basket that represents the use of fibers and is part of our heritage. It is carried this way and it allows you to counterbalance the weight. They are resistant and durable.
State officials say everyone must fight the country's harmful addiction to plastic.
We also need to re-educate ourselves. And the way to re-educate ourselves is to look back to the origin. And this beginning is full of richness and proposals made by the original peoples.
Authorities and citizens agree that the single-use plastic has caused great damage to Mexico's environment. Whether they'll be able to kick the plastic habit once and for all remains to be seen.
South Korea's largest car maker, Hyundai Motor, has announced it will suspend domestic production due to lack of parts. The announcement was made after disruption to the supply chain by the coronavirus outbreak. In a statement, the car maker said it is reviewing measures to minimize the disruption to its operations. It said schedules for suspension will vary by production line. Hyundai operates 20 plants worldwide, including 7 in South Korea. Kia Motors, a Hyundai affiliate, is another that could suspend production depending on its supply chain. Stock markets across Asia, meanwhile, are trading higher, ending recent sell-off due to worries over the new coronavirus outbreak. Investors have now embarked on a new rebound rally spurred by China's efforts to support its economy. The Nikkei 225 is trading over 1% higher. The Shanghai Composite has gained nearly 1% after China's central bank lowered interest rates on reverse repurchase agreements to ease money supply. Seoul's Kospi has gained a fraction as Hyundai shares rose nearly 1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng is trading marginally higher. Meanwhile, international crude oil prices have gained 1%, bouncing back from a 13-month low. With that, you're all caught up with the news. Thank you for watching this bulletin here on Indus News.